I'm excited to be back working on the T-Rex because the belt came in. You know, I've torn it down to this point, and then you're like, oh, let's put it all back together, and then at a later date, if I have to put a new belt in, I can tear it all apart again to get down to this piece here. That did make sense to me. Let's do it. I always like when I'm working on these projects, and it's, you know, it's only 4 steps to change the belt. But step 1 is remove the gas tank. See chapter 5. It never fails. Luckily, I've already got a lot of the gas tank components removed, so it shouldn't be that difficult to. And you know, I'll be able to put this all back together because I got it all up in here. We'll see how that turns out. I should have squirt those a long time ago. The guy's got to pace himself on those things. They're so rusted up. I just really need to order those bolts. Just have a pile of different sizes and things available to me. Kenny was telling me how his he's got that Can-Am. He said, "Oh, we just used it to go get wood the other day." I thought, well, mine's a little ways from getting wood, I think. Oh, you know what? Chad told me about using heat, so maybe I'll hit that with a little bit of heat and see what it does. Alright, let's see if I can set. Now, this is just a gas can with some flammable liquid on it and a rusty bolt. So let's see if we can add a little heat and see what happens. Just a little heat. See if that helps loosen that guy up a little bit. There it is. Still a little warm, not too bad. It's got a good coat of rust and sand on it. So it uses it's got a vent tube that goes into the frame, so it uses the frame tube as kind of a hollow cavity, keep the water out of the vent tube, I guess. How does the tank come out? That would be chapter 5. If I read chapter 5, it would tell me how to take the tank out. You know what chapter 5 is going to tell me? Take all these body panels off over here, the ones I haven't taken off yet, so I could get the tank out. I have a sneaky suspicion. I'm going to read chapter 5. I'll be right back. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Now it says, you know, remove the fuel tank. So you got to go to, it's actually chapter 3 is the fuel tank removal. And step 1 for fuel tank removal is remove the right frame pipe. See frame removal chapter. See, it just keeps going and going. So right frame pipe A in the picture is this one right here. I got to take the frame. Oh, there's a bolt right there. Maybe that comes out. Yeah, you got to you got to remove the frame, or this frame pipe A, in order to get the tank out, in order to get the cover off, to get the belt out. So we're removing part of the frame now. Here we go. Never owned something so rusty in my life. So I use Tekton tools, T-E-K-T-O-N, not a sponsor. I like them because there I got a 19 and a 17. You can get a 10 and a 12, right? 14 and a 17. There's no wasted tools. It's like they actually have worked on machines before. You work on Japanese engines and cars and motorcycles and things, there's no need for a 15 millimeter wrench. And so when they do a combo, it's always the correct ones. This thing's kind of a mess. I know, I can hear you. Do you think? Really? You really think so? Yeah, I know. It'll be a beauty. I feel like greased lightning. Except I just want it to be the one where they're dancing and not the one, you know, after they're dancing.
Come on, guys, let's get to work. Yeah.
That's funny. I have to go get my favorite cheater bar for this guy. It's not my favorite cheater bar. It's my second favorite cheater bar. I'm anxious to get this going so we can take you guys on an adventure with us. You know, adventures of breaking down in the middle of nowhere. Got some organic material in there. Make sure those embers are out. Years worth of who knows what. There we go. It does smell like camping in a strange kind of way. Let's make sure that plastic gas tank right there doesn't blow up on us. Cheater bar. I'm not sure, but it felt like my ratchet might have skipped a tooth or two. But Tecton's got lifetime guarantees, so sometimes I feel like Dora the Explorer, you know, when she finishes up.
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay!
When she accomplishes a task. That thing comes out of there and all its organic matter. We can plant a garden there. As Tom once said, I could grow corn on my dashboard. Try not to scratch that all up. Here we go. So now we got, you know, more gardening space. Some fire starter. Step 18, remove all the other bolts. I mean, how hard could this be? It always feels like a bit of a mess, but I try to be generally organized. Try in a world of chaos. Bolt number 1. What do you think? What are your chances here? Oh, he was pretty happy. Yeah, he was not angry. Yeah, look at that. If you have a unique structure like this, you know, it's just an odd shape and there's a variety of bolts, and you can look at this, you can kind of see how that is about yay long, and over here it's about yay longer. So I'm anticipating these bolts are going to be different lengths. When I pull them out, I've got a handful of bolts. Trying to figure out which one goes where can be a problem. So I just take that pattern right there, that image. What do we have? I think we got about 10 of them. And I'll draw a picture on a piece of cardboard that looks just like the shape of that. It could be, you know, a water pump. It could be anything. So there's my drawing. I'm quite the artist. And then if I look at that and I see, oh, there's one kind of right about here, and there's one there, and there's one there. And I'll go around and identify the location of those bolts. Right, my drawing with the identification of where those bolts are at, and some reference on the drawing so you can kind of get a gauge for how that's oriented, right? And then I'll just put some little cuts in this cardboard here. So then I'll just take the bolt where it came out of that hole, push it in, boom, and there it lives right there in the cardboard, right? And you can write on it. You can write, you know, clutch cover. Clutch cover, and that way if you have a variety of things that you've disassembled through like an engine process, you can have these things in a pile. All your bolts are organized, you know where they go. Did you see that? All right, here's what was holding it up. See this dowel pin right here? And there's going to be another one. There is not another one. I thought there was another one down there. Maybe it's, yeah, there it is right there in the cover. Ooh. Oh, I know enough about belts to know that that's a problem. See the crack? This was a good thing. It was a good idea. That belt has definitely got cracks in it. Man, that's exciting. I love finding a problem you think you might have, and then you do go a lot of work, and yeah, it was worth it. So this was all worth it. I'm excited. Now I got to read chapter 18, figure out how to take the belt off.
That's where we're at. I do have a couple of failures to share here. And this is where the logbook comes in really handy. So I started a logbook for a couple of things. One of them is for the water in the tank. I started tracking every day what my pH and the EC, which is electrical conductivity, that tells me the nutrient level of my tank, and the temperature of the tank. And my thought was, if I can kind of see where it's at and what my plants are doing and make any notes on that, I can make adjustments as needed. And initially, it was sort of all over the place, and I was really having a lot of trouble because I started getting a little musty odor. I had to add hydrogen peroxide, and then it would drop the pH too low. It became too acidic. So there was a pretty steep learning curve in those first couple of weeks. But for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, it's been really stable. My plants are very, very happy. They've found a nice, neutral, good spot. The pH has been running right about 6.60, and my EC has been right about between 1.6 and 1.8. And as the plants grow, they will start to decompose. They'll start to take up more nutrients. They'll decompose on the inside, and then they'll drop more nutrients into the water. So that EC will change a little bit as they go from vegetative into flowering stage. And it'll be interesting because I've got different plants at different stages in the tower. So this whole thing is trial and error. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm learning. The other thing I did was I started a seedling log. I just, said what I started seedlings, when I started them, when I transplanted them into the tower, and then I would track whether or not that made a difference of the pH and the EC. So this logbook has been really, really helpful. I did have a couple of things that I wanted to note on my seedlings. Lavender, I only planted one. I love the little sticks that Brian made me. He 3D printed them, and they're amazing. But my lavender did not sprout at all, so that was a failure. I seeded a couple of different rows of things because I didn't know what would make it, what wouldn't. I don't have enough room left in my garden for these things, and I already have things that are growing successfully. So this is going to end up being chicken fodder. So I'm just going to take it out to the chickens. They'll love it. They'll eat it all up. They're not going to have any problem consuming this. But this is the other baby spinach that I planted or seeded, and I only put one seed in there. And as you can see, it's pretty weak. It really, I think, needs more than one seedling in there to do well. But I gotta say, I'm really enjoying the whole learning opportunity. What I found was successful for me was the heat mat and the this hothouse, which creates basically a greenhouse effect. You make sure that you keep just enough moisture in the bottom of the tray to create like a greenhouse, and then my seedlings just shot up. They did amazingly well in here, and they're usually ready for transplant after about 2 weeks. They say once they're about 2 or 3 inches tall, so like this one right here would be ready for transplant. This is the cherry tomato trio, the one that was doing really, really well in there. Look at those beautiful roots. Nice, big, beautiful, long white roots. They're all on 4 sides of the rock wool. This would be ready for transplant. But again, I don't have a spot for it, and I already have enough tomatoes in my garden. So the chickens will really enjoy this. So I'm not worried about that. It's not going to be wasted. So that's what I've learned. And the other thing that I did want to mention is we found some of our plants needed a little bit of help. Some of them were getting a little droopy in the early phases, and so Brian 3D printed me some more things. He 3D printed me some of these little, they look like field goal posts, but they're not. They're supposed to be like a prop or a cage. So I put them right here, you can see, on my tomatoes, just to sort of help create like a trellis for that initial phase, and then we'll figure something else out. I did it for the broccoli initially, and then I took it out so that it could, because it's now strong enough to grow on its own. It's really strong and healthy. But the dill, it needed a little bit. So anything that looked a little bit like it needed some extra support.
I got some goodies. Not a sponsor, but you know, I always feel like the difference between a salesman and a con man is whether you believe in what you're telling people about. So this is something that I think is going to work out well, and I wanted to share with you. If you remember, I got this fancy kit that has all the threads, different threads. You can check your bolts. When you got a machine that's got a bunch of rusty bolts on it, you can check to see what thread it is, what pitch. I got a little scale here where I can measure the length in millimeters, because, you know, the Japanese machines got millimeters. And with that information, I can buy the correct JIS bolts. And so I dug around and I found this company online called boltsandnuts.com, and I bought this starter kit. I don't think I need more than a starter kit. What I liked is it's got a QR code, so when you start to get down in one of the areas, you can scan that, takes you right to the website, order it right there, fill your bucket back up. I checked a bunch of the bolts that I already had off of this machine, the rusty ones, the length, the pitch, and I knew that I'd be depleting some of these quickly, so I ordered a box of refill parts and pieces. I got some washers and nuts, and just, of course, each of these has got the QR code on it, so you could buy more when you're ready. Of course, you buy larger quantities, you get a cheaper deal, but boltsandnuts.com. So not a sponsor, but I like their product and I want to share that with you. So that is going to allow me to start putting the old, we're going to call them grumpy. So it's a T-Rex, right? And if you look for any famous T-Rexes, they're all named Rex, except for Land of the Lost, early version, 73-ish. You know, Marshall, Will, and Holly. You know that one.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known.
The T-Rex in that TV show was called Grumpy. So that's what we're going to call it, Grumpy. And I found a company, I think it's Partzilla. I think I've ordered other stuff from them. But I went through and just kind of decided some of the parts and pieces I needed. The prices were not terrible, so I ordered things up. I think I spent 80 bucks maybe to get gaskets and bolts, and this is, a lot of this is for securing the battery down to where it needs to be. Just because I noticed a lot of that stuff was missing. But I got the parts, we got our radiator. I think it's time to start putting this guy back together. So let's get to it. There, hear that? See how that pops? How you doing, buddy? How you doing, my good guy? This is Max, he's our neighbor dog. He just comes over to hang out, poop in our yard. Don't ya? You're a good boy. Yeah, you're a good boy. Yeah, you're a good boy. One day we put a note on his collar that said, "The neighbors want to know my name." And he came back with a tag that said Max. Huh, didn't you? Didn't you? Didn't you? Yeah, you're a good boy. He's a good boy. Yeah, comes over to pee on my stuff, huh? Yeah, over to pee. This is probably the culprit that peed on my generator. Huh, is it probably you? Was it you? You're a good boy. When Max was little, he would come over and I would put my fingers in his ears and in his toes and in his mouth and up his nose and so that when he got older, he'd know who the boss was, huh? Now you know who the boss of this house is. Yeah, except you still pee on my stuff. You poop in my yard. Max runs the neighborhood. Every time we leave the house, he'll be out in the road. We'll go for a walk. He'll go for a walk with us. He lives over there somewhere. You ready to go, Izzy dog? You ready to go? Izzy, come. Good girl, sit. Good dog. Let's get you collared up here. If I don't put the leash on Izzy, she thinks she can go for a walk whenever she wants. All right, let's go. Yeah, just relax. We're going to go down and see my neighbor Ben and help him bleed the brakes on his side-by-side. You guys met Ben when we went fishing, trout fishing. All right, come on. Yeah, see, here Max just follows along, or he doesn't. He does his thing. Taking a little walk down to Ben's, and there's a couple of moose in the yard. Izzy, come. The only thing predictable about moose is that they're unpredictable. So that could turn bad real quick. Luckily, these guys are probably used to being around the neighborhood and what have you. But you never know. There are dangers in all neighborhoods. Okay, well, it's not beautiful, but it's certainly better than it was. And I could polish that all day long, make it look like Grandma's fine china, but I just want it to be clean is all. I don't like the filth, the dirt. This is what I don't like. I know it's a machine made to go in the dirt, not a problem. But you don't have to live in it, you know? You don't have to... It's bad. By one point, can you believe that? Can you believe it? It goes from 6.1.0 to 30 to go straight to 40. Unbelievable. Oh boy. So we got a 40 and we got a 30, but not the 35 I need. So you see how this works. I tried to get organized and look at all the extras I bought, and it still lands into the one right in the middle. It just never fails. Do you guys get frustrated by stuff like this? Like I can either be in a hurry and go find some scabby bolts and try and throw it together, or I can be patient, take my time, order things, and then when you do that, the level of frustration is based on the fact that I got to put that on in order to start putting all the rest of the stuff in. So that missing bolt, I got a choice now. Use the rusty bolts or wait longer. Well, I'm back. We went to the Iditarod. We sold the big red pig. And it's time to work on the side-by-side some more. Grumpy. That's what we're calling them. Grumpy. So I had ordered bolts. I needed the particular bolt. It wasn't the right length. I said, you know what? I'm just going to wait. We got these other things going. I'll just order some. They'll come in. Came in pretty quick. Not quite right. So my bolts now are the correct pitch. And if you're not aware, you can just take two bolts and line them up like that if you don't have one of them fancy kits like I bought. the right length. So now I'm in business, except that the head on them is not the same. These are what they called small head. This is a 10 millimeter. Turns out these are specialty bolts with an 8 millimeter head. I don't think it's gonna matter, but just these things drive me nuts. All right, let's get to work. I don't know if adding an extension on changes your torque. I don't know the answer. If you guys know, let me know. I could probably Google it. It's more fun to ask you guys. All right, that's 87 inch-pounds. Yeah, I probably got them all at 87 without even trying. Okay, I believe we have reached a point that I can take this thing to the car wash. So I'm gonna cover up these ports. These, any electrical connections, I'm gonna put a rubber glove on it and zip tie it so it holds it on. And I'm gonna take this thing down to the car wash and clean it up, vacuum it out, clean it up. It just drives me crazy, the mess that it's in. So I have a gas pressure washer. Requires getting the garden hose out, hooking it up outside. Everything's frozen. The spigots on the outside of the house are frozen. You got to get your garden hose full of water, and then you got to empty it all out because everything gets frozen. So I bought a little electric one I could keep in here, but it's not really powerful enough to clean up what I need to clean up here. So I'd rather just go down and pay a few bucks, get this thing clean, I guess. And then I can come back and feel better about putting her back together. I don't want to put all the seats and panels, everything back in when I know it's filthy in there. When I got in here and hosed everything down, cleaned it up, it looks, you can see there's still rusty, rust spots and things, but the biggest concern is this right here. So this A-arm is bent. Look back there, and you can't see it from here. See, this is bent right here. So bent right there. So lucky for me, there are a lot of people who have these machines that choose to put a lift kit on, and when they do that, they have to take all those A-arms and everything off, replace it with longer ones to give it a lift. And so there are quite a few of these stock ones available, but it cleaned up pretty good. Took a lot of the parts down and did them up in the car wash. The back of this all cleaned up pretty good. Not terrible, not great. Not the way I like to keep things, but it was worth the money I paid for it. So so we can get back to putting her together. Hey, we'd like to thank you once again for choosing to spend your time with us. We hope you'll like and subscribe, click all those buttons, and tell your friends. And hopefully we get this side-by-side going quick enough and get out on the trail with that. See you next week.